This week should prove very important and interesting for both gold and silver, and possibly even platinum, as we watch events unfold in Russia as the war is now taken to a whole new level. Let's talk about it as we explore. Right now, in overnight trading, as the markets have opened up in Asia, gold and silver are up. Not dramatically, but they are up enough to take notice. And so what I think is affecting these prices are the attack that Ukraine has perpetuated against airfields in Russia, including deep inside of Siberia. Now, this is is absolutely a big deal. This is a turning point in the war, and it very well could escalate things to epic proportions. Some fear that maybe even nuclear weapons could be used, and that is something that we're going to keep an eye on, even with the discussion and threat of it. I think the precious metals complex will be affected dramatically. Now, everything is certainly speculative at this point, but I believe that by the time you see this video, gold and silver prices will be up even more than where they're at right now. I just finished my Sunday night market watch where I discussed this more, but there's more news coming out of attacks that have occurred within the city of Moscow itself. And you know that Russia is going to retaliate. We just don't know when. And not knowing exactly what it's going to be is going to send the precious metals prices up, and the markets will react as well. So I think that is what we're up against here as we watch the markets move this week. Now, as to what Russia's response is going to be and what will actually play out, some people feel that there's already attacks happening inside of Kyiv and other places in Ukraine already. But likely there's going to be these hypersonic missiles that Russia has used in the past. They will be utilized again. And no talks of peace will be happening now. I think we can pretty much write that off, especially after what happened. It's a situation that is very troubling because it could widen the conflict, especially with some accusations that NATO could have been involved. I don't know. I highly doubt that. But still, a highly planned attack that took a year to, according to Zelensky, to pull off. But still, no matter what your views are, this is obviously an escalation of the conflict, and this is in response, I think, to an already big attack that was put on Kyiv that Donald Trump reacted to recently in frustration to Putin. So both sides are certainly upping the ante, so to speak. And I think that's going to have an impact on precious metal prices. We have to remember that gold and silver react, especially gold with this conflict, reacts more sensitively and to the upside whenever there's uncertainty and whenever there is fear of more conflict, especially if it's going to widen. And this is one of those situations where there's talk that it could widen, that Putin is already planning his response, and it may not be limited to Ukrainian targets within the country. But of course, there's a lot of hearsay, there's a lot of rumors and speculation all around as to what that's going to be. But one thing is for sure, we know there will be a response. And so I can say with pretty high confidence that the precious metals are likely not going to go down until we hear what the response is. I think that's a pretty safe bet. Wouldn't you think so? Now, knowing my luck, I may have egg on my face as the metals may even be down as the time you're watching this. But it may not be long. I still think that we're going to see prices through this week climb up higher. And it may be even fairly dramatic, given what kind of rhetoric may be coming out of Moscow, as well as Ukraine and other nations that are involved. You know, will other nations make a statement as to what happened or could not happen, or their level of involvement? I don't know. But these geopolitical events, I think, are some of the biggest movers, such as we've seen back during one of my Market Watch live streams, I think in 2016 or thereabouts, where there was a potential attack on Saudi Arabia, and the price of gold spiked up dramatically that one night. And so it's amazing how quickly things can turn on a dime, and which is partially why I'm surprised that the Asian markets didn't react more positively for gold and silver at this time. But we're going to keep an eye on things, and this video serves sort of as a reminder of how sensitive these markets can play out. And given what's going to be going on, and likely with peace talks are going to be off the table, then we're going to see prices stay up and climb, if not stay where they're at, up high for quite a while now. I don't see them going back down. So, but you have to make your own decisions as to whether or not you purchase that at a given point in time. I know the channel sponsor, Summit Metals, they are there, and their prices are based off of the actual spot price of gold and silver, not the futures market. So if you're in the market to buy, there's a place to check out, at least to compare their service and their prices and their features that they have as well. And I'm not telling you to buy based off of what's going to be happening with gold and silver. I'm just telling you that this is where the metals likely are going to go this week, and to keep an eye on things. And if you are a buyer, you're going to want to keep an eye on things because, and even though a situation like this, I don't think it's going to cool down anytime soon. At least the rhetoric we know will be high, which is going to make the markets nervous. But there are other times when I think we can see massive spikes, overreaction, and then a pullback. And that could happen here. I think it's less likely, at least within the next week, that that's going to occur. Now, there's several different possibilities in where this could go. Is that there is a response, and it may even be a strong one, but then that might be it for a while. A response from Russia, and it may be limited to Ukraine and some of their military assets there, or what have you. I hope it doesn't impact innocent civilians like they've done in the past. But there's that, and then let's say there's a retaliation, and then and then that's it. It stays kind of where it is, and it's sort of a stalemate type of situation. Then the markets could normalize, and the normalization of the markets means that gold and silver will likely pull back somewhat, if not kind of stay kind of where they're at. I think that's probably the best scenario we can hope for at this point, given the situation. The other situation that could occur, which is highly unlikely, is we come back to the peace negotiations, and there is a ceasefire that is negotiated. It's probably going to take somebody like Donald Trump putting great pressure on both sides in order to make that happen. And if that does occur, then be prepared to watch gold and silver fall even more dramatically down to levels beyond and lower than where they're at now, and maybe even lower than Friday's close, where the prices had scaled back. So that is a unlikely possibility, but it is something we should account for. And the other possibility on the extreme other side is that the response is disproportionate to such a degree that it involves world condemnation from not only the Western allies, but some in the BRICS nations like India, for instance, or China, perhaps, which China has wanted to remain somewhat neutral in this exchange. They didn't want to be involved at the beginning. Of course, there has been trades that have occurred between Iran and Russia as well, and so likely, they're not going to break their alliances, but other powerful nations could have an impact, and that could cause the prices to go up even more, maybe even skyrocket for gold, and silver have a pretty healthy uptick in price. So those are the different possibilities. Now, I think it would be highly unlikely that we see things, and the rhetoric will be at play. Certainly by the time you see this video, this is going to be major news, and it's going to be talked about and discussed at length. And so that means I think likely prices are going to be high. It would be highly unusual to see the prices fall from where they're at. But I'm taking the chance that could happen as I record this video, because I think it's so unlikely that I would be shocked if prices fell, given what we have just seen happen over the weekend here. And this is just something, it's unfortunate. I would have loved to have seen some sort of ceasefire and some sort of agreement to territorial swaps, or to recognizing certain areas of territory. But I think likely we would see Zelensky have to concede more than what Putin would. But nonetheless, it would be nice to see some sort of peace agreement there. That's not going to happen now. I think most of us can agree. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Hope you found this video informative, insightful, and educational. I strive to bring you the latest news in the world of precious metals, and this is certainly big news right now. So with that, I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.